Okay, so good evening to everyone, and and I am Ghaleon from Poker Armenia, and today we have a coaching session about spin and go games. So let's start two of those $1 games at first. And I have no added delay on the stream, so if you do happen to be on the same table, please say that on the chat. Not the greatest of boards on the left table, but I will still try to see that. Other option is to check behind, but it's kind of tough to be calling with mediocre king high any sort of bet, so not the greatest of hand as bluff catcher. So if the stream is working, so you can hear my voice and see the screen, then please say so on the chat. That was pretty quick. Click on the right table. Queen 3, I got flush draw on the right table, but I don't see that much reason to be betting. My queen high itself should be good enough, decent amount of time when villain has been limped and keep checking. So I just try to get into cheap or free showdown if I don't improve. Ace 4 suited, kind of nasty. I don't think I want to be shoving this deep, but and pocket sixes I'm going to be calling on the left table unless the BB calls also. Chip EV game, so pocket sixes is going to be pretty solid hand overall. On the right table I could try to bluff catch. There is a lot of draws he can be semi-bluffing. Of course, on the earlier hand he didn't bet himself, but yeah, he had. And villain min 3 betting. I wouldn't fold anything really, especially not suited ace. He keeps betting 20, so I have some draws here. On the right table, I think I go for value bet. And on the left, I'm going to be behind really often, but I have to be ahead like 1 out of 12 times or something. Or if I'm splitting, that's great as well. So do 7 hitting the bottom pair. He seems to be pretty straightforward that if he doesn't have anything, he's not betting, and he's betting when he has something. So that bluff catching wasn't that great of idea, or most likely. This guy, on the other hand, seems to be betting a huge amount. Table's bit to the left. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit behind there. Days 8, I'm going to be just subbing this sort of stack depth. Just flatting wouldn't be bad either, because he has not been overly active. I could try to raise bluff on the left table. He has been mini betting basically always, and that sort of board doesn't really hit him most likely most of the time. And yeah, this guy now called. I don't think I should be trying to get him, or I think he doesn't fold a8. A8 probably never. And he has my hand mostly beat, even if I hit the pair, and on the left table sizing increases, so it's pretty easy to shove for me. And king 10 I'm going to be raise calling, even though he has not been 3-betting that much really. And in here we can check behind, but he has not been bluffing, so I think I prefer betting myself more for protection than value, because I doubt he's going to get out of line. But if he's just checking and hoping to hit, I don't really get much from just checking either. And pretty nice turn. I would have bet against check anyway on the turn, but of course nicer to do when you have the practical nuts. And he seems to be actively going against my limps, but just calling when I raise, so that's why I have raised some of hands I might have limped otherwise. Or of course it has only been like 2 times, but still. Let's see if he's being more passive against min raising. And basically these games, Spinner goes, I haven't personally played these much at all, but some people wanted to have those as voting options, so placed them here some time ago. Main problem in this game is basically going to be the fact that the rake is really high and the format is quite hyper turbo, I think. Now he checked again, but I have just bottom pair, so pretty happy to be just checking down. And now he bets. Well, I go with my read I have had so far, so just fold and not make any sort of hero calls here. So structure, 3-minute blind levels, no antes at any point. 7 jack, too strong to be shoving, but I'm going to take the flop. Ace 4, really happy to be just shoving. Pretty much set up on that one, but unfortunately for us, he hit here. So yeah, so everything working fine. So the main problem in these games is going to be really that pretty short games, so you don't have that many hands to get edge on your opponents, and the amount of rake they take from every game. 4-7, let's try to min raise and see if we get the blinds. Well, flop is not horrible at all. Unlikely to hit opponent that often, and we get gutshot. But he calls and we don't have any real read, so of course, so I'm just checking, and well, I was saying folding to bet, but if he bets 20, I think I can even call for my few outer, like 4 or 7 might sometimes be out as well. There might be implied odds if he happens to if he happens to if I happen to hit that gut shot. Pretty coordinated board, so I could be checking back that one. Main problem in here is that unknown opponent, so it's going to be pretty tough for me to bluff catch. And in here, ace 10, in my opinion, is going to be pretty great hand. He's also a bit short stack, so he might be doing some pretty loose shoving. And pretty deep heads up again, so definitely not usually 3-betting with ace 4, and even here I don't like to make like 70 or 80 raise because I'm just going to be out of position with crappy ace in bigger pots, so I personally prefer to just check pre-flop. And basically no reason to get tricky here over this 40 chip pot. Of course it's kind of a situation that is willing really value betting how many better hands here when the board has quite apparent straight draw possibility. And those 10, we can go either way, checking back or betting. I will check here because the 9 jack is kind of coordinated board. If it was like deuce 5 jack, then I would say there is kind of more point in betting and basically protecting the hand. And yeah, I'm not folding against these min bets. Of course, we might now be shoving the river, and we can think, well, there is some point on this board that could we turn our hand into bluff, but I don't know if he really folds that much. We are good on the flop, but he sucked out. But I think still that overall it make more sense to be just calling flop compared to raising. And of course if we raise we will stack off. And pocket deuces is something I'm pretty happy to be shoving here, even though we are a bit deeper. If I just flat here most of the time, And here I have so little behind that I can actually, even with this grab, I think maybe stop and go will be the most profitable option. Well, not going to work that often, but so let's take other two. Four X this time. So basically, if you want to be playing these games, you should be aiming to play every game as well as you can, basically. So even if you get the 2x price pool, these games will matter a lot in the long run. In the long run, because most of the games will be 2x. Not the greatest of flops again with the ace queen, but I don't really see again reason to be raising. 3 then for Dirk is point in also betting the flop. And on the left table he increases his sizing, but I do have double cut shot 2 overcards. Of course queen might not be out, but again I'm not folding against this sort of sizing. And here I basically just, I'm not folding on that one either, but just give him some rope to bet himself. Basically, if he has better hand, it's nothing I can do, basically. But at least I give him space to be bluffing. Or semi-bluffing his drawing hand. Queen jack suited. Not sure if I do have folding equity in these games, but in general I don't mind shoving here because like small blind should be folding huge amount of time. Same might be for the button. Actually got better hand to fold. There's already sizable amount in the pot compared to my stack size. Yeah, there is like extra variance in these games from the lottery side that you quite rarely get those bigger games, and if you don't win those, it will, the results from those will depend a lot, so like affect a lot on your actual results. For queen suited, basically against good player this would be pretty close on calling, but I think most of the players in these games won't be shoving enough. And I think here this will be profitable shove, most likely good amount of time. Well, Villain has ace, so of course he's calling. Not starting too strong on the session. Danita said that play $0.25 ones, so let's try out those as well. Not much reason. Well, protection is basically only reason to be betting on the flop. Well, not too great starting hands, have to say. Three eight. Even this is pretty ugly spot if I face sizable 3-bet. Against that, I think it's best to call and check if I hit. This guy shouldn't be shoving. Well, I kind of hit, but this is kind of troublesome flop when there is also the ace. Well, let's just give up. Also, he's c-betting against two opponents, so... So this guy went with his Jack 10. Seems to be also some sort of possibly regular guy when he's on the both tables. Pretty small 3-bet sizing, decent hand, so I'm going to be defending. And really dry flop, he checks. I will check behind. If he's giving up some sort of king 10 to my bet on the flop, it's pretty bad for me to be betting in general when I have the big hand. And for Ratarato asking, do I limp anything? Well, this could be one option to limp when this more aggressive guy is on the big blind. And when he 3.5 pp open, I kind of have to be folding. Well, not the greatest of turn cards. I limped so he can have 3x decent amount of time, so I'm just going to be checking that one, and 4 is another kind of bad one, and he bets huge. Well, basically what we can beat is some sort of 7x, maybe some 5 turning into bluff, but I think when he sizes it like that, he really often has it. Queen deuce. Not quite enough to be shoving, really. King 10 suited is going to be practical, not 11 pp deep. And he gets quads. In here I could try to induce action by calling here. If I had like kings plus, I would probably do that one, but I think with jacks I prefer more to just shove it over his race. And queen 7 suited. Not the greatest of shoving hand. Shoving hand, but in chip EV game, I think it's still a bit better than open folding. And this guy might be aggressive enough for me to stack off here with queen 8. If he would fold it, I would try to limp against his PP guy. Hitting top pair, pretty coordinated board, but I can't really be check folding here, and check raising would be too strong in general. Of course he can be stacking off with weaker hand, but now when I do hit two pairs and he bets his pigs, it's pretty easy for me to check shove. And if he has some sort of draw he will call always anyway. Well, got to luck it here. Would have been ugly spot if I didn't improve on the turn. And queen 10 in general, I don't want to be folding this stack depth like bit below or 10 pp deep against active player. If he had min raised, I could also just call here, but when he makes it this sizing, I just shove over him. He was making big bet with queen 5 in the previous hand, so going to be pretty happy to shove also here. So let's take a bit bigger ones now. Hopefully run good will come now. Well, from not the lottery part, at least. Sitting out player here. Small 3-bet, I get pretty great pot odds to be calling with nice playable hand. Well, on the left table by c-betting I can get some better hands to fold. Well, I could actually bet even a bit smaller considering we have so little behind, but anyway. And he called, so he most likely has something. That something might fold here, but I'm just not too optimistic. Optimistic people would be actually folding that much to multiple barrel. And really dry flop. Jack high doesn't have a huge amount of showdown value, so it's okay to try and bet. Queen and ace is not really actually that bad if he would check here, because it should be kind of scary looking board if he has like 5x. But he pots it now, so most likely has something. And this guy min 3 bets, let's go for 4 bet. I think he will be continuing anyway, really often here. Might be calling shove as well. Well, kind of bad flop, but managed to win this time. On the right table, it's question whatever we want to be check raising here or just call. I think against unknown I will go for small check raise. And if I just call in the turn, I'm mostly just checking pretty much every river, and here I'm just going to shove. If he has queen, I think he's going to be calling it really often. And king queen is going to be pretty standard shoving hand with this sort of stack depth. If just flatting, then we shouldn't in general be check folding that much to see bets, because king queen high will be good really often on the flops, especially if you have aggressive c-betting opponent or someone who is c-betting a lot. Three ten, nothing really outside of some backdoor draws, so if he bets, I'm just going to fold. I could try here to stab it. Basically, I have, well, if I have hit a 10, then it's going to be pretty often good, but mostly I'm just going to be stabbing once and giving up if he calls. But if he's straightforward with his flop checks, then it's going to be really profitable plan to just bet once. King deuce might be okay to shove here, but I will just take the free flop. And he checks again, so that seems like I should be giving some credit to him when he do c-bet. Of course, he might have flopped like trips here and slow placed them, but or he might have some air, but I'm not not going to check call hit here with king high. So we have got shot with 8 and can't really do much if he bets here. If he checks again, I should have best hand really often. And if he do bets, I'm still going to be calling. Might have opened him some straight draw combos with some Broadway hands. And 10 is really good for me because it decreases 10x combos from villain range. So I pretty much have to call if he does. If he does South River and he checks, so I think I should have best hand really often. And considering he only has 2/3 of the pot behind, I think shoving is the best play. I don't really think that he's going to call wider if I bet like 100 chips. I would assume at least. Reeds was correct this time. Basically for villain making on that last hand that he, of course it's totally fine play for him to raise pre-flop, but making it just 2.5 pp out of position is not really something you want to be doing, because he gives such absurdly good pot odds for the player to call from position. Here we have really defendable hand, only ugly part is c3 x's with these stack sizes, but I think I still defend. And totally miss, so let's just snap fold. Again, big sizing. And basically when someone uses that sort of sizing, it does limit option to defend by calling quite much. And against min raise, I think I'm going to defend even this crappy king. And pretty much always check calling the flop. And turn is practically good for me because it's total blank. Of course we get quickly into spot that if we call here and river is blank, can we really be folding? Well, it's not totally blank. So if we had some sort of flush draw, it got here now. And he shouldn't be value betting weaker hand. So I think I will be folding here. If he checks, I could try to stab with this spot. And well, sizing wise, 20 would be totally fine as well. Well, that was kind of big fold with king 9. Again, not the greatest of flops. Basically, if we see bet here, we have to be calling against check raise with these pot odds. And ton of draws he could be betting here. Not the greatest river again, but I think I will be hero calling if he does bet here. And this is obviously not profitable shove against good player, but might be that Villain is folding enough. But when they wake up with such premium hands, it's pretty tough to say. Pretty tough to say how wide they really called here. We got Maniac on the left table. Leading tier on the really dry flop. Of course I could raise, but if he has total air, then he's mostly folding. So I prefer just calling. And shoving against his 40. It's like totally weird line for the villain. But no idea what he has really. I could also check on the right table because villain might not be folding that many AX type of hands anyway, but this time got value. If he had betted river, I would have been quite mandatory fold, because like 6-7 got here, diamond draw got here on the turn, so there shouldn't be huge amount of busted draws. Ace 5 suited. I think I will just shove against him. Again, kind of situation that I don't love to build the pot with something like ace 5 by raising small. And empty sidepot, so if I don't improve to 2 pairs, no reason to be betting or calling. And he should have something better always. Min 3 betting. Pretty much always mark of weak player. And when I do hit, of course villain might sometimes have like flush, but I think with trips I still want to raise, but if he shoves now, it's going to be pretty ugly. He had the flush, but didn't shove. King 9 suited, this guy has been pretty active. I think shoving is going to be okay. And in here, when we are playing for chip EV, it doesn't really matter that we are second stack. Second stack. Only kind of reason of thinking of this player is that how it affects this guy. Raising range and calling with 10-9 off is quite funny line. But yeah, if he wants to call that against 15 BP shove, then that's fine to me. Deuce 7, this guy has not been loving the fold button, so we can pretty easily just fold it. And something around 20 pp is something I'm okay to shove with those crappy aces. If villain is typed to limp huge amount of hands. And always check calling flop. Not much reason to be doing anything else. Quick check by him, so it's quite likely that I have the best hand. And if he's defending a lot, then this sort of board I should get good amount of fold equity by c-betting. No draw, straight draw combos really outside of some 5-3 and so on ace high, so it might scare him so from some king high type of hands and so on. And these sort of hands, they still have the high card value. And in here I could actually check behind because there's not much villain can call with. Well, river is kind of ugly because I think I will be checking behind if he, hopefully he doesn't bet. Yeah, well, I think he has the 3 or 9 here. Really often. Oh well. Could try bluff raising. So far he hasn't folded single time against my min raise pre-flop. And again reason a spot where my queen high will be good amount of time, so let's just try to check to showdown. Well, can't get really much better hands to fold. And might have best hands sometimes. Quite rarely though. Well, 10-8 suited, I can just take the free flop. Wow. This guy has been pretty lucky on those rivers. Of course I have given free ones, so seems to be limp folding huge amount. 5 queen I can shove profitably here, but I think I could also try to just limp because he has been really passive, so there's not much risk of him abusing my limping by shoving weaker stuff, but here stacks start to be shallower and queen high is going to be decently solid shoving hand. Now he min raises, but I still have a pretty playable hand. And in general going to be good turn card. Of course he can have some of better hands, but there is also a lot of busted draws, so he might hero call some A highs and so on. And if I check, he's mostly going to be checking behind, I would assume. And as he haven't been folding to min raises, it's pretty obvious for me to be. And obviously snap calling. If he had, I'm pretty surprised if he actually has ace here. Yeah, running good. That will lane. And pocket 8. Definitely hand I want to raise. Pre-flop shoving wouldn't be horrible option for this reason that when we get caught there is going to be good good amount of overcard boards. Of course, this is kind of extra ugly board. But if we get action from 7-10 off, can't really be too unhappy about that. Now he's betting 40. Queen Jack might be good in itself, but could be easily some sort of King X line, or maybe he turned the 8 as well. And pretty tough to get good hit on the river. If we hit Queen or Jack, it's still just a bluff catcher. And nothing more really. 20. I'm going to c-bet for value basically on the left table. I think my ace high is really often going to be the best one. And unfortunately he didn't pull the trigger third time. I was snap calling him. And well, pretty horrible play from his part again, that there shouldn't be any reason to be turning king high into bluff here. But that's what you can expect from recreational players. And again, I'm going to call here and call any turn basically. I don't know how many, but probably at least at 1.5 hours coaching. Well, he's donking pot size, so no reason to really do anything. If it was like half pot, I might have bluff raised. Pocket fives I could also just shove. That would have been pretty standard. On the left table I can bet for like semi-bluff, but at the same time King Jack has some showdown value itself. So do I want to turn it into bluff or not? Because like I think it's, well, some a highs might decide to fold, but and here I'm not really going too much for those sort of bluffs in general, but decided to try that time. And like, wow, that's like just horrible line to take with queens. Two pairs, but on this board it's not going to be much else than bluff catcher basically. But shoving queens with, like, was it almost 20 pp deep or something? Not something you see that often in heads up, at least. Pocket deuces is great hand to just open shove. King 3, he's opening decent amount. I think I still prefer just calling. Don't really like to shove, but I think small 3-bet might be reasonable. Because he has been opening quite good amount of hands. Well, those are not the greatest of card combinations. But basically it's also pretty nice spot for Villain to bluff here. On the river, because I'm quite unlikely to have like AX that much. Ace deuce, definitely shoving, and even if he calls, it's pretty mandatory call. Well, that's the downside of taking that sort of line. Justice River. And King 3, he has been really actively opening, so I'm going to shove this with this stack depth. It's not going to be hugely profitable, but it's still most likely the optimal play. Queen 8, he has been quite active against limping and might be something to just open shove. Didn't really like to limp fold or raise fold that much. Seems to be pretty competent looking player. And any king is going to be profitable. No split pot. So let's play at least two more sets. Well, that's pretty much one of the worst flops on the right table. In general, against small blind. Small blind call. So next Tuesday we will have this same spin and go coaching in Finnish, and after that, well, I'm not sure about Christmas time. How am I going to? I could just slow play the queens. And is there value in shoving? And with the pocket trees on the board, I think we are beating enough of his combos that hit here on the 9-7 and so on, so he might be calling. Oh well. Of course, talk that 3x is so unlikely hand overall to have in his range, but yeah. And basically, I think biggest risk here is that he has better check 5x line like that would be pretty weird. Yeah, he has that, but can't really be folding in my opinion here. Because I think it's so often also some sort of stupid bluff or with total air or some sort of flush draw. And king queen, I'm not totally happy here, but can't really be folding 20 pp deeps in general this sort of hand. This small pocket spare has not been my friend this session. And now he folded. Would be decent river to also bluff. Let's try limping. If you have any sort of questions about these formats, again this bony guy, then please ask those. Haven't followed the Twitch chat, but no comments here. Queen King 9 suited. It's pretty tough for me to get again better hands to fold, but this is kind of spot where I'm not really betting for value or bluff, because I just think that if I check, it's quite tough for me to be check calling anyway, but it's still on that board kind of good hand. And the jack was decent barreling card because, well, in these games I have no idea if I should be stacking off against small 3-bet. I doubt I really have any fold equity, so that on the king 9 hand that I got this gut shot here, and if he had some sort of weak flopped bottom or middle pair with those, was it 2s and 5, it's going to be kind of scary card. Six nine. Well, don't really have much. And it's board where Will Lane shouldn't be c-betting huge amount, but he might anyway. And on the left table, kind of ugly spot that he sizes it so big. So I think I have to be folding, even though this hand is pretty solid. And on the right table, pretty standard shove. And on the left table, after I limped, he min raises, so I'm not again folding anything. And day 6, if he min raises, I'm definitely going to be shoving. And small blind call is mostly going to be dead money on the pot. And this guy has been pretty active on min raising, so I could actually re-steal shove, suited king. Well, these are kind of something you have. It's going to be tough to see that they are going to be calling that sort of total garbage. So the question is that even when he calls with hand like that, is it value shove already with king 3 suited more than any sort of re-steal? But yeah, if you see that sort of play in $15 games on the spin and the coast, there's definitely some value in these games. And of course, basically in any format, any buy-in, there is going to be weaker players. And I think in here against this small blind I should be raise calling as well. He has been so aggressive overall. Again, kind of ugly flop. This guy is defending huge amount. Most likely, so can I hero call here? Okay, he had the straight. Might have been stupid call. He did actually fold. I thought he's going to be calling very often against that sizing. He has been min-raise folding often also, so might be decent player overall. And if that's the case, then making small raise here can be kind of bad. Of course, if he's limp folding huge amount, then we can also raise small with all sorts of crap hands. and just abuse his tendency. With king queen I could also min raise limp, but it's basically never folding against any sort of aggression. So let's take one more set. And a pretty nice flopping top two pair and hit check raises, so definitely calling, hoping he continues with whatever he has. And wow, that's pretty much summarize his play. This player checked the flop, so it should most likely decrease some of king x jack x combinations, and 5 does give some draws, so I think check calling is totally fine on the turn. River of course completed 7-8, but I would still probably call decent amount of time. And this is probably some sort of regular Supernova Elite anyway. Is he going to be shoving again if I'm in race? Because this is sort of hand that I don't really want to be folding. And 8 to 10, bottom 2 pairs draw the board, so I most likely get enough action from weaker stuff by just raising. Well, okay. That was quite a setup. In villain shoes I wouldn't really shove any hand with 27 pp stack. Well, he seems to be pretty active on his 3 betting, so we want to be decreasing min raising and playing more of limping style. And unlucky on the right table. And this is kind of classic spot where villain might think that I don't have many AX. So I will have quite a lot of difficulties to give up on this hand. And now he's frapping that he has queen or backdoor flush, most likely. quite decent amount of bluff, semi-bluff combos he can have. And well, I'm going to be hero calling this time. And of course he has that exact draw. He has been c-betting every time so far, so I could try to check raise here. And he gets there. I think it was pretty bad session from the result wise at least. But let's check those. So yeah, those bigger games mostly went down, and well, not not looking too good from the buy-ins either. But I think there was decent amount of setups and not so lucky endings to hands. But yeah, this was the coaching for this time, and thanks for anyone commenting and following the stream. And good luck on the games if you play, or good night if sleeping. Bye.